Have you ever wondered what lies at the deepest core of a woman's heart? What she longs for more than anything, even if she's never said it out loud? Stay with me, because what you're about to hear could change the way you love, the way you lead, and the way you live. Ladies and gentlemen, I stand before you today not to flatter your ego or to entertain your ears, but to share a truth that cuts clearer than the morning sun, stronger than the river's current, and more essential than the next breath you take. There are things in this life more precious than gold, more treasured than the rarest jewels, more powerful than the fleeting currency of this world. And today, we will talk about one of those things: the hearts of the women we claim to love, mothers, daughters, sisters, wives, each carrying silent longings more profound than most men ever realize. Too often, their hearts speak quietly in whispers. Even they barely hear, because what they desire most cannot be bought. It cannot be packaged in a box or delivered in a grand romantic gesture. No money, success, or status cannot buy what I'm about to share with you today. So, lean in, because I want to give you 6 truths, 6 keys that can unlock the hidden treasure of the feminine heart. And I pray you don't just hear these words, but receive them deeply into your soul. There is a longing within every woman's heart that runs deeper than wealth, more sacred than any measure of worldly success, and more enduring than beauty itself. It's a yearning untouched by the shine of gold or the weight of a black credit card. It's not stirred by flashy power or impressive titles. It's not awakened by the most extravagant gifts or the most expensive vacations. What her soul aches for, sometimes softly, sometimes desperately, is a place where she can lay down her fears, her doubts, her joys, her truth, and rest without fear. I'm speaking of emotional safety. And hear me clearly, emotional safety isn't some cliché phrase from a therapist's couch or a chapter title in the latest self-help book. It is holy ground. It is the rare, sacred space where a woman can unmask herself and still know she is loved, where her voice matters, even when it trembles, where her emotions are welcomed instead of shamed, where her doubts can be spoken without being corrected like a child. Emotional safety is when she can express pure joy without being mocked, when she can share her sadness without being brushed off, when she can show anger without being labeled crazy or dangerous, when she can reveal her doubts without being lectured or fixed. Emotional safety is not a gift you can wrap in ribbon or present with a bouquet of roses. It is built painstakingly, brick by brick, moment by moment, choice by choice. You can buy her dinner at the finest restaurant. You can take her on the most breathtaking vacations. You can fill her closet with the latest fashions and flood her phone with flattering words. But if she cannot bring her true self into the light of your presence, if she feels small, silly, dramatic, or like she's simply too much, then every one of those gifts is empty. Because a woman would rather sit in a humble kitchen with a man who makes her feel safe than in a sprawling mansion where she feels unseen, unheard, and unloved. Here's the truth. Plain and unvarnished, every woman carries stories inside her she's afraid to tell. Wounds she hides with a brave face, but that haven't fully healed. Dreams so fragile, she's barely dared whisper them to herself. And she is watching you. Yes, she is watching you far more closely than you realize. She's not watching your wallet. She's not watching your car or your career title. She's watching your eyes, your ears, your posture, your patience, your capacity to hold her heart with gentleness and strength. She's wondering, will you judge her when she cries? Will you dismiss her fears with a careless shrug? Will you roll your eyes when she feels anxious or overwhelmed? Will you get defensive when she shares her hurt? Or will you stand steady, listening not to fix her, not to silence her, but to understand her? To every man listening right now, hear this, like it's the most important truth you'll ever learn. What a woman wants most is not your money, not your muscles, not your promises of grand adventures. What she wants is to know deep in her soul that when she shows you the raw, unpolished parts of her heart, you won't flinch, you won't turn away, you'll stay, you'll listen, and you'll love her through it. Emotional safety. It's a phrase often misunderstood, dismissed, or belittled by those who think it sounds soft or weak. But hear me clearly, emotional safety is not weakness. It's not passivity. It's not a timid man walking on eggshells, terrified of every mood swing or fleeting emotion. No, emotional safety is strength under control, a power so rare it's worth more than any diamond on earth. It is the mark of a man who has mastered himself enough to become a shelter for someone else's heart. It is choosing to remain calm when she's storming with feelings she can't yet name. It is standing steady when her words come out messy, when her tears flow without explanation. It is choosing empathy over ego, choosing connection over control. Because a man who can choose peace instead of panic when emotions rise is a man who can build a foundation strong enough for two hearts to rest upon. And that kind of strength, it's rarer than the purest gem. It shines brighter than any watch you could wear or car you could drive. You want to be her hero? Then make her feel safe, not just physically, not just financially, but emotionally. Let her trust beyond a shadow of doubt that her feelings matter. Let her know her words will never be twisted and used against her. Let her understand that her vulnerabilities won't be mocked or belittled. Let her be complex because she is. Let her be human because she is. And in doing so, you will offer her something more precious than anything money, success, or grand gestures could ever buy. Because when a woman feels emotionally safe, she will begin to unfold like a flower turning toward the sun after a long night. She will speak deeper truths. She will share softer parts of herself. She will offer more joy, more light, more love. She will give you her best not because you demanded it, but because you created an atmosphere where her soul could finally breathe freely. And that, my friends, is a love no paycheck can purchase. Emotional safety, given freely and nurtured consistently, becomes the richest currency a man can ever carry in his life. And when you give it truly, selflessly, give it, she will never forget how you made her feel. Long after the dinners, the gifts, the trips have faded into memory, she will remember the man who offered her peace in the storm, who made her heart feel safe enough to be fully alive. But emotional safety alone isn't the whole picture. There is a fire burning in the heart of every woman of fire that longs to follow something greater than herself. Not just a man with big dreams or ambitious plans, but a man who walks guided by something higher, something unshakable. A compass that can't be bought in stores, can't be swayed by trends, and won't be rattled by the storms of life. She longs for a man who lives with vision, not vanity, purpose, not pride. A man led by something eternal, not temporary or shallow. This, beloved, is what I call spiritual leadership. And I need you to hear me clearly on this point. I'm not talking about being religious for show throwing around scripture to sound impressive, or putting on a mask of morality while hiding bitterness or arrogance behind your eyes. I'm talking about a man who leads from his knees before he ever tries to lead with his mouth. A man who knows the voice of God because he spends time seeking Him. A man who doesn't just memorize spiritual words but lives them. A man who has a relationship with his Creator, not just knowledge about Him. A man who asks himself daily, what is right, not what will make me look good. Because deep in every woman's soul is a need to feel covered. And I don't mean covered only in the sense of financial provision or physical protection. I mean a spiritual, covering a sense that the man she loves is anchored to something greater than himself, something strong enough to guide, protect, and lead their lives together through every storm and every season. This kind of leadership doesn't shout or demand. It doesn't puff up its chest or dominate conversations. Instead, it humbly serves quietly, protects, and gently guides. It's a love that shows up in the small moments, in prayers whispered for her when she's asleep, in the integrity you keep when no one's watching, in the courage to admit when you're wrong, and the humility to grow from it. Because when a woman sees a man led by a purpose bigger than himself, she doesn't just feel attracted. She feels safe. She feels inspired. She feels drawn to follow not because he commands it, but because his life invites it. She wants to know deep in her heart that when the fierce winds of life blow and the weight of the world bears down, you won't snap like a brittle branch. She wants to know you're tethered to something unshakable, something eternal that keeps you steady when everything else trembles. She longs to see that you live by timeless truths, not passing trends. That when she stumbles or feels weak, you'll lift her gently instead of judging her harshly. Spiritual leadership doesn't mean you always have every answer, or that you never falter. It means you take responsibility for the atmosphere you create in your home, the condition of your soul, and the direction of your relationship. It's praying not to show off spiritual words, but to protect what matters most. It's listening not only to her heart, but also to the quiet whispers of God's wisdom. In your still private moments, you carry peace, not pressure. A woman feels safest when she knows the man by her side is submitted to something higher than his own desires. She can rest in your love when she knows your pride isn't leading you astray. She can follow your lead confidently when she sees you are guided by light, not lust, by faith, not fear. She can respect your decisions when they flow from discernment, not domination. And let me tell you plainly, there is no amount of money, no level of success that can ever replace this. A woman will trade the fanciest house for a man who breathes life into her soul. She will let go of worldly comfort for a man who covers her daily in prayer. She will walk through the darkest storms with you if she knows your heart is anchored in truth and humility. Because at the end of the day, she's not searching for a king to rule over her life. She's searching for a shepherd to walk beside her, to guide and guard with compassion. She doesn't need perfection. What she craves is unwavering integrity. She doesn't need endless sermons. She longs for genuine sincerity. And when she sees you fighting for what is right, not just for her, but within yourself, she will trust you. She will admire you. She will follow your lead with joy instead of fear. So to every man listening, remember this. Your greatest strength will never be measured by your bank account or status. It will always be your spiritual authority, not the kind you demand or force, but the kind you quietly live out in every decision. When you walk in alignment with truth, you invite her into a love that is safe, sacred, and unbreakably strong, a love that can never be bought, only built. This, my friends, is true spiritual leadership. And when a woman discovers it, she will hold on not because she feels obligated, but because her soul knows it has found its home. Because there is something more powerful than empty promises, more comforting than well-laid plans, something that speaks louder than grand gestures and runs deeper than poetic words. It's not flashy or glamorous, but it's more precious than gold. Every woman, whether she admits it aloud or keeps it locked in her heart, longs for it desperately. It's called presence, not just being in the room, not just showing up occasionally, but truly being there with your whole heart, mind, and soul. I'm talking about real, unwavering, consistent presence. The kind of presence that speaks louder than any grand gesture or fancy word. Because, let me tell you, consistency is a language all its own. It quietly says, "You can count on me." It promises, When life shifts and everything feels unsteady, I won't. It declares, I'll be here when you're laughing, when you're crying, when you're doubting yourself, and when you're too tired to even say what you need. A woman doesn't just crave fireworks that explode and fade. She needs a steady flame that doesn't burn out. She needs a man who doesn't just draw near when he wants something or when it's easy, but who stays close because he values her heart more than his own convenience. See, we live in a world obsessed with excitement, addicted to novelty, and high on the thrill of the next distraction. Our culture scrolls past anything that asks for patience, commitment, or real effort. But a woman's heart isn't wired for shallow attention or fleeting interest. She was designed for connection that endures, for love that proves itself over time through ordinary moments as much as grand ones. And that's why true presence, consistent, faithful, grounded presence, is so rare and so deeply treasured. Because when a man keeps showing up day after day, not just during the highlights, but through the mundane, the difficult and the silent seasons, something powerful begins to happen inside her. She starts to feel something money could never buy: safe. Not just physically safe, but emotionally secure. She begins to believe, maybe here I can finally breathe. Maybe in his presence, I don't have to perform to pretend to hold everything together. Maybe this love won't vanish the moment I show my mess. And once a woman feels that kind of safety, her walls, those high, heavy walls built by past hurts, begin to lower. Her guard starts to soften. She lets herself be seen fully and honestly, maybe for the first time in her life. But don't be fooled. This kind of presence costs something real. It costs time you'd rather spend elsewhere. It costs the selflessness to set aside your phone, to turn off distractions, to choose her needs over your immediate comfort. It means valuing consistency over chaos, choosing steady love over the roller coaster of selfishness. It's not always exciting, it's rarely convenient, but it is always powerful. Because when you show up consistently, you become a place she can return to, a safe harbor in the storms of life, a solid ground she can trust. And trust me, you can't fake consistency. You can't substitute it with a sudden expensive gift, a spontaneous vacation, or an apology wrapped in charming words. A woman remembers patterns far more than promises. She sees where your feet actually walk much more than the words your mouth says. And if your pattern is absence, if your love only shows up when it suits you, your presence becomes meaningless over time. But if your pattern is faithfulness, if you're there through joy, through silence, through conflict, through all the ups and downs of life, your presence becomes her peace. Let me say something that might be hard to hear, but it's the honest truth: showing up only when it's easy doesn't prove a thing. Anybody can show love when times are good, when laughter is easy and life feels light. Anybody can stand beside someone when the sun is shining. But real presence, the kind that sets a woman's heart free, reveals itself when things get heavy. When she's not at her most lovable, when she's hurting, anxious, or lost in her own doubts. When she pushes you away because she's afraid to trust again, or when her emotions feel like a storm too big for her to handle alone. That is when your consistency will mean the most, because that's when your calm can become her shelter. Your steadiness can become her anchor, and your faithful love can remind her that not every story ends in heartbreak. And as we move forward, let's look even deeper into what it truly means to love a woman in a way that brings out the best in both of you. That's when your presence speaks the loudest, when the storms come, when the air feels heavy, when words run dry, and silence stretches long. That's when love stops being a fleeting feeling and becomes a powerful decision you make day after day. So many men spend their lives chasing the next big thrill, the next shiny distraction, never realizing that the woman standing right in front of them isn't asking for fireworks or constant excitement. She's simply asking for one thing: stay. Stay when the mood shifts and the laughter fades. Stay when life feels ordinary, when the glow of newness gives way to the quiet routine. Stay when she needs space to breathe and figure herself out. And stay when she needs closeness to know she's not alone. Stay not to control her or keep her small, but to support her growth. Stay not because you're perfect or never stumble, but because you're committed to showing up no matter what. That kind of steady presence is rare. It's precious, it's sacred, and it's unforgettable. Because when a woman finds it, when she sees with her own eyes and feels in her own heart that you don't run, that you don't flinch, that you don't disappear when things get tough, she begins to believe in love again. Not the fairy tale love that fades with the first struggle, but the real love that stays, that remains, that grows deeper through every season. And that, my friend, is worth more than anything money could ever buy. You could speak 1,000 words to a woman. Poetic words, sweet words, clever words, but if not one of them truly reaches her heart, she will walk away, empty, still starving for connection. Because a woman does not live by compliments alone. She does not thrive on shallow chatter or conversations that skim the surface. Her soul craves something deeper, something real, something that makes her feel seen, heard, and understood. It's not just about talking. It's about connection through conversation, the kind that doesn't just fill the air with noise, but fills the heart with warmth. You see, there is a quiet hunger in many women. A hunger to be understood, not just tolerated. A hunger to be asked questions that go beyond the obvious, to be met with eyes that don't just glance, but truly see. Yes, she wants to talk. But more than that, she wants to feel felt in the conversation. She wants to know that when she shares her thoughts, they aren't just bouncing off a wall, but sinking into a heart that cares. She wants to sense that her words are not an inconvenience, but nourishment to something within you. Any man can talk, but it takes a man of depth, a man of courage, a man of love to sit down, lean in, and listen with his whole self. To put away the phone, close the laptop, set aside the distractions, and close the gap between you. A woman notices when you're physically present, but mentally somewhere else. She feels the difference between someone who listens just enough to plan a reply and someone who listens to understand the truth behind her words. She wants to feel like her thoughts are welcome, even when they come out tangled or confused. She wants to know her emotions matter, even if they're messy, inconvenient, or raw. She wants to know that when she brings her heart to the table, you'll handle it with care. And let me say this from one man to another: if you've ever wondered why she's gone quiet, why the words have slowed, or the distance has grown, it might not be because she has nothing to say. It might be because she no longer feels heard. Because somewhere along the way, she sensed that her words weren't landing, that her heart wasn't safe, that the space you once created for her to open up has closed without either of you realizing it. Because when her words are unheard, her heart begins to close, and that's why listening deeply matters more than anything you say. Silence isn't always peace. Sometimes it's retreat. Sometimes it's the quiet result of too many dismissed feelings, too many ignored details, too many conversations that ended in frustration or apathy. She may smile and nod, she may softly say she's fine, but deep down her heart is quietly asking, "Do you really see me? Do you truly care?" And know this: when a woman stops believing you care about her voice, she will stop sharing her heart altogether. But, oh, everything changes when she finds someone who asks, not just, "How was your day?" but "How is your heart?" When you ask about her dreams, her fears, her childhood memories, her faith. When you remember the small details she thought you'd forget, each moment builds a trust no amount of money could ever buy. When you give her space to express her truth, Even when it's difficult to hear, and you stay gentle, you stay listening, you stay engaged, you're building something sacred. She doesn't need perfect responses. She needs real ones. She doesn't need a man with all the right words. She needs a man willing to sit in the silence to hold space when there are no easy answers. Because conversation isn't about fixing, it's about feeling. Sometimes the greatest healing doesn't come from advice, but from the compassion you carry. And don't think for a second that deep conversation is only for moments of crisis. No, it's for the daily, the ordinary, over morning coffee, on late-night drives before bed, in those in-between moments where love is quietly strengthened. Words create worlds, and when your words say, "You matter to me," your mind, your spirit, your thoughts, every part of you matters, she will flourish, she will open, she will trust. So talk to her. And even more importantly, invite her to talk. Don't interrupt. Don't fix. Don't rush. Let your focused attention say what words alone cannot. I choose to be here with you. Because in the end, it's not about what you say. It's about how you make her feel in the conversation, respected, valued, safe. And that, my friend, is a love that money could never purchase, a love built on truth spoken, trust shared, and hearts fully known. There's a kind of wealth that won't show up in your bank account. It shows up in your home. It shows up in the sound of laughter ringing through a kitchen, in inside jokes whispered between two souls who know each other deeply, in the light that returns to her eyes when you remind her that even in a heavy world, life can still be good. Because every woman, whether she admits it out loud or quietly hopes for it, longs to laugh with the man she loves. She longs for joy that is safe, joy that is shared, joy that is sacred. Because when you share laughter, you build something deeper than words alone ever could, a connection that reminds her you're in this together. The kind of laughter that says no matter what we're facing, we still have this. We still have us. Never underestimate it. Laughter is holy. It's defiance in the face of darkness. It's light in the middle of routine. It's medicine for tired, burdened hearts. It costs nothing yet. It's richer than diamonds, more healing than any gift. And know this, a woman doesn't just want a partner who provides. She wants a partner who plays, who can be lighthearted without being careless, who can make her laugh, not by being a clown trying too hard, but by being fully present, unafraid to be in the moment with her. Free enough to smile, free enough to dance, free enough to really live. Because, let's be honest, life will do everything it can to harden her. Responsibilities will pile up. Regrets will whisper in the dark. Pressures will press down until even breathing feels heavy. But if she comes home to someone who can make her laugh, not just at jokes, but at life itself, she'll find her second wind. If she finds someone who doesn't just take life seriously, but takes joy seriously, she'll feel safe enough to finally let go. And oh, what a rare and precious gift it is to be able to let go in front of someone you trust, to laugh without holding your breath, to be light even if only for a moment. Because some of the most meaningful laughter in a relationship doesn't happen during planned dates or expensive nights out. It happens in the simplest, most unexpected moments. It's in the way you make a goofy face across a crowded room when no one else is watching. It's in the playful debates over what music to play in the car or what to order for dinner. It's in the spontaneous dancing in the kitchen while dinner simmers on the stove. It's in the silly private jokes. Only you two understand, those little things that build a secret world only the two of you share. That private world woven over years of shared joy becomes a fortress. And inside that fortress, she feels protected, not just from the dangers of the outside world, but from despair itself. And here's the good news, you don't need to be a comedian to give her this gift. You just need to be real, be joyful, be willing to look a little silly, Be the kind of man who can take a heavy day and soften its edges with laughter, who can remind her that even on the hardest days, light still exists. Let her see that your love isn't only serious, it's alive. Let her feel that she's not just admired or supported, but enjoyed. Because there's a powerful difference. Being loved is beautiful, but being enjoyed, being the reason someone else lights up, being the person who brings someone else joy, that's where hearts unlock. Laugh with her. Laugh often. Laugh even when the world says you shouldn't, even when life feels heavy. Because laughter doesn't mean life is perfect. It means you refuse to let pain write the final word. It means you choose light in a world that tries to convince you only darkness is real. And when she sees that light in you, she will exhale. She will soften. She will open up and give herself more freely because she knows joy lives where you are. And that kind of joy, that kind of connection, it's worth more than anything money could ever buy. But beyond laughter, beyond all the words and smiles, there is something every woman longs for even more deeply than lavish gifts or impressive success. It's not wrapped in gold or displayed on a stage. It doesn't shout for attention or sparkle for crowds. It's quiet but powerful, gentle but life-changing. It's emotional safety. Because you may have her body, you may have her time, but until you have her trust, real unwavering trust, you haven't touched the deepest part of her soul. She needs to know that when she lets her guard down, when she shows you the rawest, most vulnerable parts of herself, she will not be shamed. She will not be mocked. She will not be dismissed or used. She needs to know that when she takes off the armor she's worn to survive the world, she'll be met with kindness, patience, and love. Because emotional safety isn't about perfection, it's about presence. It's about creating a space where she can speak her fears, share her dreams, confess her doubts, and still feel seen, heard, and cherished. And that, my friend, is the kind of love that doesn't just survive the years, it grows stronger with them. It's the kind of love that weathers every storm and still stands tall, a love that can never be bought, only built one honest, patient, joyful moment at a time. So choose to laugh with her. Choose to see her. Choose to stay present. Choose to build a love where her heart feels safe enough to unfold her spirit light, enough to dance, and her soul free enough to trust. Because, in the end, it's not about what you give her. It's about how you make her feel. And when you give her your real presence, your steady joy, and your unwavering emotional safety, you give her the greatest gift of all.